Police officer jokes, cop jokes. Police officer, how high are you? Pothead, no officer, it's high, how are you? A football player, an illegal immigrant, and a Muslim are in a car who's driving. The police officer. What's black and always in the back of a police car? The seat. Female police officer, anything you say can or will be held against you. Me, tits. Q, what do you call a female police officer who plays guitar? A, she riff. Police, open up. Me, no. You're gonna yell at me. What do you call a clairvoyant midget who escaped from prison? A small medium at large. What did the Missouri sheriff call the black teen who had been shot 12 times? Worst case of suicide he had ever seen. Police sirens. Police, do you know why I pulled you over? Me, because you were bored and wanted someone to talk to. Did you hear that the Energizer Bunny was arrested? He was charged with battery. What did the policeman say to his belly button? You're under a vest. What do you call a white cop? Porky Pig. How do you know if a police officer is gay? The smell of his mustache. Cop, we're going to have to give you a drug test. Me, cool, which drugs are we testing? What do you call it when a prisoner takes his own mug shot? A selfie. What is the 4 food groups of police officers? Jelly, powdered, glazed and chocolate frosted. What would you do if I stole a kiss? Call the police. What do you get when you cross a police officer in a sleeping bag? Pig in a blanket. A police recruit was asked during the exam, what would you do if you had to arrest your own mother? He said, call for backup. A policeman arrested 2 boys yesterday, one for drinking battery acid, the other for eating fireworks. They charged one and let the other one off. Call the police and start a search party because I can't find my self-esteem. Dear rappers, please stop putting police sirens in your music. When I'm driving it scares the crap out of me. Only 2% of wealthy people say they fear the police, 94% of working class people fear the police. Sleep is my drug, my bed is my dealer, and my alarm clock is the police. That awkward moment when you see police and feel guilty even though you haven't done anything. How do police officers handcuff a one-armed man? I was drunk when I had my driver's license picture taken. That way, when the police pulls me over, I don't have to worry. Drug dealers are always late. If your drug dealer is on time, it's the police. It should be illegal to play a police siren on the radio. Why do all cops' farts stink? Because they're pigs. I'm always relieved when I see police that aren't looking for me. The police sent me a picture of me speeding. So I sent them a picture of a check. They sent me a picture of handcuffs. The police want to interview me. Strange, I didn't even apply for a job. There. Women are like the police. They can have all the evidence in the world. But they still want the confession. Police in India are being paid to grow mustaches because it commands them more respect. If weed was legal, the police could actually spend their time catching real criminals, not ones that sit on their couch and eat snacks. Dear police officer who asked me to say the alphabet backwards, the alphabet backwards. I don't have a drug problem, I have a police problem. The toilets were stolen from the police station. The cops have nothing to go on. The hitchhiker. A police officer was patrolling the highway when he sees a guy tied up to a tree, crying. The officer stops and approaches the guy. What's going on here? He asks. The guy sobs, I was driving and picked up a hitchhiker. He pulled a gun on me, robbed me, took all my money, my clothes, my car and then tied me up. The cop studied the guy for a moment, and then pulled down his pants and Whipped out his dick. I guess this isn't your lucky day, pal. Gas station. One day, a man was filling his gas tank at a gas station. He filled the tank so full that gasoline got on his shirt sleeve. Unaware that there was gasoline on his sleeve, he lit a cigarette and his sleeve caught fire. So he jumped into his car, waved his arm up and down in an effort to put out the flames. He looked into his rear view mirror and saw red, white and blue lights flashing and heard a police siren. The policeman pulled him over, got out of his patrol car, and arrested the driver for having an illegal firearm. Highway patrol. A man purchased a new Mercedes to celebrate his wife leaving him and was out on the interstate for a nice evening drive. The top was down, the breeze was blowing through what was left of his hair and he decided to open her up. As the needle jumped up to 80 mph, he suddenly saw flashing red and blue lights behind him. There's no way they can catch a Mercedes, he thought to himself and opened her up further. The needle hit 90, 100. Then the reality of the situation hit him. What am I doing? He thought and pulled over. The police cop came up to him, took his license without a word and examined it and the car. It's been a long hard day, this is the end of my shift and it's Friday. I don't feel like more paperwork, I don't need the frustration or the overtime, so if you can give me a really good excuse for your driving that I haven't heard before, you can go. The guy thinks about it for a second and says, last week my nagging wife ran off with a cop. I was afraid you were trying to give her back. Have a nice weekend, said the officer. Christmas cop. On Christmas morning, a cop on horseback sits at a traffic light next to a kid on a shiny new bike. The cop says to the kid, nice bike you got there. Did Santa bring that to you? The kid says, yeah. The cop says, well, next year, tell Santa to put a tail light on that bike. The cop then issues the kid a $20 bicycle violation ticket. The kid takes the ticket and says, by the way, that's a nice horse you got there. Did Santa bring that to you? Humoring the kid, the cop says, yeah, he sure did. The kid says, well, next year tell Santa to put the DK underneath a horse, instead of on top. Female sheriff. Recently, a female sheriff's deputy arrested Patrick Lawrence, a 22-year-old white male, who was fornicating with a pumpkin in the middle of a field at night. The next day, at the Gwinnett County, Georgia courthouse, Lawrence was charged with lewd and lascivious behavior, public indecency and public intoxication. The suspect explained that he was passing a pumpkin patch on his way home from a drinking session when he decided to stop. You know how a pumpkin is soft and squishy inside, and there was no one around for miles, or at least I thought there was no one around, he stated. Lawrence went on to say that he pulled over to the side of the road, picked out a pumpkin that he felt was appropriate to his purpose, cut a hole in it, and proceeded to satisfy his pressing need. Guess I was really into it, you know, he commented with evident embarrassment. In the process of doing the deed, Lawrence failed to notice an approaching sheriff's car and was unaware of his audience until Deputy Brenda Taylor approached him. It was an unusual situation, that's for sure, said Deputy Taylor. I walked up to Lawrence and he's just humping away at this pumpkin. Deputy Taylor went on to describe what happened when she approached Lawrence. I said, excuse me sir, but do you realize that you're having sex with a pumpkin? He froze and was clearly very surprised that I was there, and then he looked me straight in the face and said, a pumpkin? Shit, is it midnight already? The court, and the judge, could not contain their laughter. Lawrence was found guilty only of public intoxication, fined $10. and sent on his way. Plain versus glazed. A policeman pulls a man over for speeding and asks him to get out of the car. After looking the man over he says, "Sir, I couldn't help but notice. Your eyes are bloodshot. Have you been drinking?" The man gets really indignant and says, "Officer, I couldn't help but notice your eyes are glazed. Have you been eating donuts?" The juggler. A circus performer was pulled over by a police officer for speeding. As the officer was writing the ticket, she noticed several machetes in the car. "What are those for?" she asked suspiciously. "I'm a juggler," the man replied. "I use those in my act." "Well, show me," the officer demanded. So he got out the machetes and started juggling them, first 3, then more, finally 7 at one time, overhand, underhand, behind the back, putting on a dazzling show and amazing the officer. Another car passed by. The driver did a double take, and said, "My God! I've got to give up drinking. Look at the test they're giving now. 3 people. Once upon a time there were 3 people. Fuck off, shit and manners." Shit fell over so manners went to help him up while fuck off called an ambulance. While waiting for the ambulance he bumped into a policeman. The policeman asked him his name and he said fuck off. Then the policeman asked him where are your manners and fuck off said picking up shit. Front seat. A policeman in the big city stops a man in a car with a tiger in the front seat. "What are you doing with that tiger?" he exclaimed. "You should take it to the zoo." The following week, the same policeman sees the same man with the tiger. Again in the front seat, with both of them wearing sunglasses. The policeman pulls him over. "I thought you were going to take that tiger to the zoo." The man replied, "I did. We had such a good time. We are going to the beach this weekend." Farmer's wife. On a rural road a state trooper pulled this farmer over and said, "Sir, do you realize your wife fell out of the car several miles back?" To which the farmer replied, "Thank God, I thought I had gone deaf." Police chase. 2 redneck Alabama state troopers were chasing a Mustang east on I-20 toward Georgia. When the suspect crossed the Georgia line, the first trooper pulled over quickly. The rookie trooper pulled in behind him and said, "Hey, Sarge, why did you stop?" The Sarge replied, "He's in Georgia now. They're an hour ahead of us, so we'll never catch him." Helpful wife. A man is pulled over by a police officer and a conversation takes place. "Man, what's the problem, officer?" Cop, "You were going at least 75 in a 55 zone." Man, "No sir, I was going 65. Wife, "Oh Stephen, you were going 80. Man gives his wife a dirty look. Cop, "I'm also going to give you a ticket for your broken tail light." Man, "Broken tail light? I didn't know about a broken tail light." Wife, "Oh Stephen, you've known about that tail light for weeks." Man gives his wife a dirty look. Cop, "I'm also going to give you a citation for not wearing your seat belt." Man, "Oh, I just took it off when you were walking up to the car." Wife, "Oh Stephen, you never wear your seat belt." Man, "Shut your mouth, woman." Cop, "Ma'am, does your husband always talk to you this way?" Wife, "No, only when he's drunk." Bobby and Earl. 2 rednecks, Bobby and Earl, were driving down the road drinking a couple of bottles of Bud. The passenger, Bobby, said, "Looky thar up ahead, Earl, it's a police roadblock. We're gonna get busted for drinking these here beers." "Don't worry, Bobby," Earl said. "We'll just pull over and finish drinking these beers, then peel off the label and stick it on our foreheads, and throw the bottles under the seat." "What for?" asked Bobby. "Just let me do the talkin', okay?" said Earl. Well, they finished their beers, threw the empties out of sight and put label on each of their foreheads. When they reached the roadblock, the sheriff said, "You boys been drinkin'?" "No, sir," said Earl while pointing at the labels. "We're on the patch. Drunk driving. It seems a gentleman had too much alcohol at a party, was heading home, and was pulled over by a state trooper. Upon being tested, the fellow couldn't walk a straight line anymore. Then he could drive one, so the trooper wrote out a ticket and had just given it to the driver before an accident in the opposite lane took his attention to more important matters. The inebriated driver, figuring that the trooper wasn't coming back to him, drove home and went to bed. He was awakened in the morning by a knock at the door, created by two more state troopers. "Are you Mr. Johnson?" they asked. He admitted that he was. "Were you pulled over at Main Street last night for driving under the influence?" Again, the man admitted that was he. "And what did you do then?" the troopers asked. The man replied that he drove his car home and went to bed. "Where is your car now?" the troopers inquired. The man answered that it was in the garage. "May we see the car?" asked the troopers. The man answered, "Sure," and opened the garage. Inside the garage was the state trooper's car. Police patrol. From the state where drunk driving is considered a sport, comes this absolutely true story. Recently, a routine police patrol parked outside a bar in Fort Worth, Texas. After last call, the officer noticed a man leaving the bar so intoxicated that he could barely walk. The man stumbled around the parking lot for a few minutes, with the officer quietly observing. After what seemed an eternity in which he tried his keys on 5 different vehicles, the man managed to find his truck and trailer and fall into it. He sat there for a few minutes as a number of other patrons left the bar and drove off. Finally, he got into the car and started the engine, switched the wipers on and off. It was a fine, dry summer night, flicked the blinkers on and off a couple of times, honked the horn and then switched on the lights. He moved the vehicle forward a few inches, reversed a little and then remained still for a few more minutes as some more of the other patrons' vehicles left. Finally, when his was the only car left in the parking lot, he pulled out and drove slowly down the road. The police officer, having waited patiently all this time, now started up his patrol car, put on the flashing lights, promptly pulled the man over and administered a breathalyzer test. To his amazement, the breathalyzer indicated no evidence that the man had consumed any alcohol at all. Dumbfounded, the officer said, "I'll have to ask you to accompany me to the police station. This breathalyzer equipment must be broken." "I seriously doubt it," said the truly proud hillbilly. "Tonight I'm the designated decoy." Bobby's chap walking through the park at night hears a lady's voice in the bushes. "Fancy a good time, only 5 quid. Why not?" he thinks. He is just about to grope the lady when a policeman shines his torch. "What's going on?" asked the policeman. "Do you mind?" replied the chap. "I am about to have sex with my wife." "Sorry," said the policeman, "didn't realize it was your wife." "Neither did I till you shone your bloody torch," responded the husband. 3 little boys. When 3 little boys named Shut Up Mind Your Own Beeswax and Trull were playing basketball, they threw the basketball and hit a cop car. "Cop, what are your names?" Shut up mind your own beeswax and trouble." "Cop, are you looking for trouble?" "Shut up, he's right here." "Pulled over." "A cop pulled me over on the road, I was speeding. He said, 'Papers.' I said, 'Scissors, I win.' And drove away."